Dead on arrival, government MPs kill bill aimed at protecting consumers from high bank fees and charges. Good evening and welcome to Primetime News on air and online at onespotmedia.com. I'm Janella Precious.
And I'm Doreen Samuels. Also this evening, extended Denham Town and Mount Salem residents to live under Zozo for another 60 days.
Sticking to his words, PSOJ President adamant Jamaica on the way of being a failed state if crime is not controlled.
Back in session, judges return to courtroom.
Big losses, toll roads in the red as fewer motorists use the thoroughfares.
And in business news, take charge. PIOJ head says reducing the impact of climate change will be critical for future economic growth.
There's also sports commentary and weather in this newscast. But before the break, the feedback question.
What is your opinion should be done to effectively deal with high bank fees and charges?
You can share comments online, facebook.com/Television Jamaica, and tweet us at Television Jam.
Please stay with us. Primetime News returns after this break.
Welcome back to Primetime News.
Special welcome to folks on onespotmedia.com.
The government today used its majority in the House of Representatives to crush changes to the Banking Services Act.
Finance Minister Audley Shaw argued that the government wants to protect the consumers, but for the most part the bill is repetitive.
That has forced Opposition Member of Parliament Fitz Jackson to rethink his strategy to get the bill passed. Now, TVJ's Andrea Chisholm was at Gordon House and now joins us live. Andrea?
Thank you very much, Janella and Doreen. Now, with last week's sitting of the lower house fresh on the minds of many, all eyes were on Gordon House today to hear if parliamentarians would support proposed changes to the Banking Services Act. Finance Minister Audley Shaw took the time to compare both bills, the changes being pushed by Fitz Jackson and the Banking Services Act, which was passed in 2014. Now, one such example cited by Mr. Shaw was a request for the language to be clear and simple.
Section 132(4)(b)(4) of the Banking Services Act requires the BOJ's code to oblige the deposit-taking institution to, quote, to keep language in contracts with customers simple and clear and ensure that key terms such as rates, terms, fees and payment dates are clearly identified for the customer's attention. It's there already in the bill that you passed in 2014. So why you want it again to repeat it in another bill?
As a long-serving member of this House, he knows if the bill does not contradict any provision that is existing, there is no injury. In fact, this bill was drafted by the Chief Parliamentary Council.
Now, Mr. Shaw indicated that 90 to 95% of the changes were already in the 2014 bill and a Bank of Jamaica Code of Conduct for deposit-taking institutions. Now, that Code of Conduct, he said, was implemented in September last year. But he admitted that the issue of regulating the actual fees charged by deposit-taking institutions like banks, those have not been addressed. And at a hastily called press conference, the opposition pointed out one such instance.
The most important aspect of the bill is the minimum service package, and that is not in the Banking Services Act. The minimum service package is what would say that banks cannot charge fees for persons who are cashing checks, and that the interest rate changes must be notified in advance.
We too, on this side, are concerned about certain fees and excessive charges in the banking system. The question is how you deal with it in a manner that is internationally acceptable and transparent.
To this end, Mr. Shaw argued that by June this year, the Bank of Jamaica will be looking at how the Code of Conduct is being implemented. And since that will happen later this year, he had this request of Opposition MP Fitz Jackson.
I respectfully and humbly suggest to the member that you withdraw the bill and work together with us on creating the appropriate consumer protection framework.
When we drafted the bill, Mr. Speaker, we subsequently made adjustments in the bill to concur with some of the provisions in the existing regulations that we had no difficulty with. So, Mr. Speaker, I humbly submit that the bill be read a second time.
Those in favor? Those against?
So in the end, there were 30 noes and 29 yeses. And of course, government members voted that the bill not to be read a second time, but opposition members wanted it to be read a second time. And because of that, since the noes outweighed the yeses, the bill was not read a second time, and because of that, it was quashed. Mr. Jackson subsequently indicated that he will be retabling the bill, and he is hoping that at least one member of the government would support his quest to have the changes to the Banking Services Act. And if that does not happen, Janella and Doreen, he said if the PNP forms the next government, within 30 days of them taking office, they will be passing the legislation. It's back to you.
Thank you very much, Andrea. The PSOJ president has reiterated his warning that if the crime situation in Jamaica is not controlled quickly, the country could become what he describes as a failed state. TVJ's Herman Green reports.
PSOJ head Howard Mitchell says he came under heavy criticism for using the term failed state recently in describing Jamaica. However, at a Rotary Club meeting in Kingston on Tuesday, he reiterated his view, this time calling for urgent action to ensure Jamaica does not become one.
I am sounding a warning that in relation to public order and to the control and management of our citizen security, the state is failing.
For Mr. Mitchell, the term failed state is applicable to countries that are unable to deliver on at least one of its primary responsibilities, such as providing security for all citizens. He argues that for Jamaica, there have been many failed crime plans over the past 2 decades, all of which have made the same recommendations, including improving the performance of the police force and the promise of social intervention. Mr. Mitchell said, while crime plans continue to focus on murders, those killings are not the beginning of crime, but the end product of a slew of other issues that continue to be ignored. He says the PSOJ has the right to constructively criticize the political directorate on both sides for the direction the country is heading in.
Therefore, I make no apology for stridently speaking out against the neglect, the lack of vision, the absolute incompetence of the agents, some of the agents of our state.
However, Mr. Mitchell says business people, the church, and citizens in general should also share the blame. He believes that collectively, they do not demand accountability from elected persons.
If we do not, as a people, if the Rotary, if the civic groups, if the church, if the Teachers Association, if the PSOJ, the JMA, the Chamber of Commerce do not constantly and actively call the agents who have control over our daily lives and the organization of our public order, then we are going to go down.
Herman Green, TVJ News.
Court was back in session today after the island's judges withdrew their service yesterday. The government in response noted that the action taken by the judges was unprecedented, but contended in a statement that there were other avenues available to resolve the matters raised. TVJ's Herman Green has more from the OPM release.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness has faced harsh criticism from various civil society groups, members of the legal fraternity, and even the church for his stance on the appointment of an acting Chief Justice. The government continues to be on the defensive, this time responding to concerns expressed by judges who stayed off the job Monday. In the statement from the judges, there was little mention made about the appointment of the acting Chief Justice. But a statement from the Office of the Prime Minister said Mr. Holness's remarks at the swearing-in of Justice Brian Sykes were taken out of context and used to, quote, create a non-existent threat to the independence of the judiciary." End quote. It went on to say that if those comments cause concerns to the judicial arm, the Prime Minister has no hesitation in unconditionally withdrawing the comment. The release, however, pointed out that there were other statements in the Prime Minister's remarks which would have reassured those concerned that the government has no intention to interfere with judicial independence. The statement also stressed that there was never any intention on the part of the executive to supervise or direct the judicial branch. The Prime Minister, in accordance with the Constitution, recommended someone to perform the roles and function of the Chief Justice. It was not intended to have the recommended person act indefinitely, and it was always the intention of the government in short order to appoint the Chief Justice. On that matter, it noted, at an appropriate time and in short order, the Prime Minister will recommend the appointment of the Chief Justice. As it relates to the concerns expressed by the judges, it stated that Cabinet welcomes the acknowledgement by the judges that there are concerns about inefficiencies, deficiencies, and delays in the justice system, and agreed that much more needs to be done for timely justice outcomes. It went on to say, "We accept the observation of the judges that although the judicial branch of government is independent and should remain so, it is also accountable to the public." This statement reaffirms the very important point that all arms of government are accountable to the public. The Cabinet is well aware and agrees with the judges on the need for greater resources to be allocated to the justice system. It is the intention of the government to make further investments in the justice system to support our number one medium-term strategic priority, which is the strengthening of the rule of law and timely justice outcomes. However, the government maintains that there are further efficiency gains possible through reform in the use of current levels of funding to the justice system. Herman Green, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, President of the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, PSOJ, Howard Mitchell, also weighed in on the ongoing controversy surrounding the appointment of an acting Chief Justice by the Prime Minister. He was speaking at a Rotary Club of Kingston meeting today. Mr. Mitchell said the PSOJ has written to the Prime Minister outlining its concern with the impracticality of a temporary appointment. He said the letter also highlighted issues with the proposed performance assessment procedure, noting that the Office of the Prime Minister has no capacity to assess the performance of a jurist.
What you're talking about is the performance of the administrative acts. Many of those administrative acts lie, in fact, in the Ministry of Justice and are funded through the Ministry of Justice. So tying the Chief Justice's hand behind him and throwing him in the dark end of the pool and saying, well, perform, don't make any sense to me.
A top story this evening, government MPs use their majority to kill banking bill aimed at dealing with high bank fees and the charges. Still ahead, toll roads rack up huge losses on low usage of the thoroughfares. And in business news, take charge. PIOJ head says reducing the impact of climate change will be critical for future economic growth. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Continuing the news, the National Road Operating and Construction Company, NROC, continues to lose millions as fewer motorists are using the toll roads. The issue was raised at today's sitting of the Public Accounts Committee, PAC, today. TVJ's Anthony Lugg reports.
It was pure excitement when the government announced plans to open both the east-west and the north-south leg of Highway 2000 due to their potential to add economic growth and development of the country. Though it's beneficial, over the years there has been a decline in the usage of the highways. That's just one reason why the National Road Operating and Construction Company, NROC, is now in debt totaling over $73 billion. PAC member Fitz Jackson asked that NROC look at adjusting its operating model to increase revenue.
Take, for example, the Portmore leg. During the late nights, the low volume period, the rates are just the same. No incentive to utilize that and earn more revenue. And the other one, Vineyard through to Maypen, the same thing. And you guys have been adamant that you'll keep the highway empty during those periods rather than earn revenue, though at a lower rate, that will boost your overall income. So I'm renewing my plea with your finance model people. Even test it for a period.
Dr. Maurice Guy believes NROC should do more.
You have vested interest to see that there is some money coming into NROC. 2010 is 7 to 9 years ago, and you still have not seen a profit based on original projection.
The risk currently is with the developer. So if there is a reduction in tolls, for example, and the revenues, there's a shortfall in revenues, the risk is 100% with the developer. We don't share that risk with the developer.
But there are more concerns as NROC prepares to start acquiring lands for the extension of the East-West Highway from Clarendon to Williamsfield, Manchester.
The current cash flow or traffic projections don't indicate that you'll be able to service the debt.
Is the toll road the best option for that leg right now, if it is that the government of Jamaica is the one taking this debt?
Peter Bunting believes once it's carefully planned, the extension of the toll road can work.
I think the idea of sort of just upgrading the existing Scots Pass porous is going to be very limited.
Anthony Logg, TVJ News.
Parliament has again approved another extension of the zones of special operations in Mount Salem, St. James and Denham Town and Kingston. Prime Minister Andrew Holness made the request in the House on Tuesday, asking for 60 more days effective February 28. He says the extension is justified because there has been no reports of murders in any of the declared zones. He says gang activities have also decreased, but the government accepts that the initiative will not be a quick fix to the country's crime situation.
Among other factors, to a long-term approach to reducing crime.
Meanwhile, he notes that the extension will also help the progression of the social intervention or build phase of ZOZO, particularly in Denham Town.
Transition from the clear phase, which is a phase where we remove from the space the criminal elements, we take in as much as we can the weapons and establish a security domain. Then we transition through the whole phase, which is the period of time that is necessary for the social intervention committee to come in and establish itself.
Now, meanwhile, even as parliamentarians approved another extension of the zones of special operations, concerns about the social intervention component of the operation in Mount Salem, St. James. Here's TVJ's Lanague Franklin with that story.
Disappointed. Concerns are being raised as the social intervention programs move at snail pace into Mount Salem, St. James, the first zone of special operations.
So, what I really want to see, things start to move a little faster. You understand? For the people them. Because enough young people they want to work same way, you know. So if them come and I develop the place, then young people they go get work too, not true?
Mount Salem was declared the first zone of special operations on September 1 last year. It has been extended twice since then.
While the residents are very happy with the peace and quiet within the community by the presence of the security forces, they are also now very anxious and has been asking questions to which I can't answer, regarding when are we going to see our roads improve, when are we going to see the water system improve, when are we going to see the electrical poles and the regularization of the electricity that was promised.
President of the Mount Salem Community Development Council, Winsome Barnes, says minor works have begun, although promises have been made for the major works to start soon, to which those responsible will be held accountable. According to Ms. Barnes, the Mount Salem Primary and Junior High School, which is in a state of disrepair, has been earmarked for major rehabilitation. Concerns are also being raised that a second zone has been declared in Denham Town and Mount Salem is yet to benefit from the building phase of ZOSO.
Reports are coming in that other ZOSO or the second ZOSO area have more activities or more infrastructure taking place than what is taking place here in Mount Salem, which was the first zone to be declared in the country.
Me know say I will it upon the Prime Minister and too, because you can't see what they go on. But then again, the place is a town, and as far as we see, this place are run down right now. You understand? So we want more development, and the whole talking no make sense. Work, action.
Lanague Franklin, TVJ News.
The Health Minister, Dr. Christopher Tufton, has responded to claims made in the Senate last week by Government Senator Dr. Sapphire Longmore. Dr. Longmore, who is battling breast cancer, told Parliament's upper house on Friday that patients at the University Hospital of the West Indies were being blocked from accessing a critical drug to fight the disease. TVJ's Vashon Brown has a primetime news follow-up.
Last week, Government Senator Dr. Sapphire Longmore raised concerns about what she called a major problem in the treatment of breast cancer in Jamaica. She said patients with an aggressive form of the disease are not receiving a critical drug, Herceptin, at one of the island's major hospitals.
The sad reality is that persons who are registered to the university hospital are being blocked from accessing this drug.
On Tuesday, Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton pointed out that the drug in question is available in the public health system. He said the contract requires the supplier to deliver the drug to 4 hospitals, including the Kingston Public Hospital. The University Hospital is among the 4, but Dr. Tufton said the drug is administered through KPH.
I think the contention by Senator Longmore is whether or not the drug should be sent up to the University Hospital. It's something that I think we can work on and work out, but the challenge would be UWI's own status. UWI is semi-private, semi-public, and so in the initial stages of the program, the University Hospital was not considered because, as I said, it's semi-public, semi-private.
Dr. Tufton argued that there is an issue with delivering a drug provided by the National Health Fund to an institution that charges for its services.
As it relates to the particular case, if Senator Longmore wanted to access the drug and was willing to be treated.
ARV pharmacies. The NHF said the Herceptin program is administered by the relevant regional health authorities and the drug is dispensed directly to the oncology department in a public hospital based on a prescription from that department.
Councillors in St. Anne are taking the government to task for the non-payment of funds for road repairs in the parish. The councillors say the road repairs fund has not been replenished in the last 2 years. The declaration was made at the latest meeting of the St. Anne Municipal Corporation. TVJ's Kalisha Williams reports.
Irate councillors at the recent meeting of the St. Anne Municipal Corporation venting their frustration over the lack of funding to fix roads in the parish. The councillors say for at least 2 years the corporation has not received the remainder of the monies promised for the Equalization Fund. That fund is to be used by parish councils to cover critical infrastructural work. It is seeded by monies from property taxes.
The road, Corporation Road, it is in my state now. That road, I will repeat myself, that road was approved from 2015 December. We were commenced on 2015. And we received a portion of that money. And the Honourable Minister came here and he promised us state collective going to release the portion, 50%.
We'll ask the CEO to write to the Minister and see where we are with equalization funds.
I want you, sir, don't leave it up alone to the CEO, because he can only write the permanent secretary. But all the decisions that will be taken for the benefit of the people of St. Anne and Jamaica at large, because it's not only St. Anneans that use the road in this parish, it's the entire Jamaica that use them. So all the benefit is left in the hands of one man.
The councillors believe the Minister of Local Government, Desmond McKenzie, has fallen down on his promise. The mayor has been asked to intervene.
I urge you on the political side, sir, to use your office to speak directly to the Minister and remind the Minister that it is overly bad. For 2 years now he has not sent $1 to this council.
TVJ News tried to reach out to the Minister of Local Government, Desmond McKenzie, for a comment on the issues raised by councillors, but his phone rang without an answer. Kalisha Williams, TVJ News.
The St. Thomas woman who was caught on video beating her daughter with a machete is speaking out about the incident. Doreen Dwyer, who was sentenced to 3 years probation last week, says the experience is one she doesn't want to relive. TVJ Shamela Mitchell reports.
The video went viral on social media last year. It was filmed in this yard in Bath, St. Thomas, showing 44-year-old Doreen Dyer beating her teenage daughter with a machete. The mother was berated by most, others sympathized. The single mother telling TVJ News that life has been unkind to her. Domestic work and hairdressing are her mainstay. As for children, her plan was for one, but circumstances meant she ended up with 5. 3 of her children are now adults. The other 2 reside with her. One was victim of the beating in the video. Miss Dyer explains that it was her first time using a machete to beat her daughter. She said it happened after her daughter refused to do a chore she was given.
I'm so Shavana, me beat you, and by the time I grab her, I don't see anything, I look at the kitchen door, I see the piece of bill, and I just start slap her with the bill.
At any point, were you scared that you might have hurt her, like cut her?
No, I love my kids them, so I need not chop her. I just slap her if she understands me and mother, and when I talk to her, she will learn to hear, because them father leave me from them at 2-year-old me and me 1.
Miss Dyer says her eldest daughter decided to film the incident in order to teach her 13-year-old a lesson.
That I say she video before we just have it for look upon it and show her it when she face her. I said every time you face it, at this make her get beaten through the face tennis. But our next door neighbor come over and tell my daughter that make him see, but the guy would do it, put it out, the man him couldn't agree.
She was later arrested and charged. In court, she entered a guilty plea and was sentenced to 3 years probation. Parental counseling was ordered for her and she was told to attend anger management classes. Miss Dyer's mother, Carmen Cornwall, says the situation has affected her and her family.
So when I hear the accident with him and them now, I just God keep me, tears coming from my eye.
Since the video went viral, Miss Dyer's 2 children who resided with her were placed in the care of a relative by the court. But now that the court has handed down the sentence, Miss Dyer says she longs to have her children back. She says her children have never left her side, especially since she's hypertensive and is on medication.
Some of the time at night I fight to sleep on the bed back of me who want to sleep in the middle. When my pressure pill take me, I wake up and say, Mommy, why you struggling in your sleep? So I say, my pressure and want to give me the water, want to take out the pill, give me. Then don't leave me an inch.
She has learned her lesson, vowing it will never happen again. To get back the children, she will have to wait a court decision on the matter next month. But the single mother has a message to fathers.
But I want to find them stand up for them kids. That's enough for the young boy them. So them father leader for them, they go pick up gun and go do this rob and get end up dead. The girl want them get pregnant before time because them mother not have it and the father not support them. So you know them have to carry the bill and them trying the bill, you know. Then have no father, the mother see one to go take out that trouble again, more upon what she have again. So I want to tell the father them at Jamaica about support them kids.
Shamela Mitchell, TVJ News.
The winners of the R.J. Arglina Honor Awards were announced today at a gala luncheon in Kingston. The award recognizes the initiative, accomplishment and courage of individuals or organizations that have contributed significantly to improving Jamaica's quality of life. Professor Gordon Shirley was named the R.J. Arglina Man of the Year.
A lot of the things that would have contributed to the panel thinking of me really is the work of an outstanding group of people that I work with, and many of them from the Port Authority are here over in the corner there. There are many from UWI. My closest colleague and friend Alvin Wint is here, one of the awardees as well. Chris Tufton we used to work with. If you work with good people, you're going to get good results, and this is what I think has happened in my case.
Beres Hammond was given the Lifetime Achievement Award for Entertainment. The National Library of Jamaica received the category award for Arts and Culture, NCB CEO Patrick Hilton for Business, Boys Town for Voluntary Service, ISA for Sport, reggae artist Jamar McNaughton, better known as Chronics, for Entertainment, the Electricity Sector Enterprise Team for Science and Technology, and Jamaica Moves for Health and Wellness.
And we take a break. When we come back, the business day and news from overseas. Please stay with us.
Coming up on E-Prime tonight, I-Octane conquers the globe with his new album and the musical legend recognized for his lifetime of work. All this and more right after sports commentary. See you then.